So, hello and welcome to the Diverse Creative Podcast. And I'm here today with Jade River, and we're going to chat about her music, about some of her new releases, and about Galpalooza Festival, which she's going to be performing at this year. So, hi Jade, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing so well. It's so nice to chat with you today. How are you
Oh,
doing?
it's wonderful to chat to you too. So, tell me a little bit. We were discussing before this started that Jade River is your stage name, right? What is the significance of this name for you?
So, Jade is actually, I have three younger sisters, and Jade is actually, it's a bit of a weird spelling, the JAID, but it's basically our first letters of all our names put together in order. And then, the river comes from the saying, like, you can never step in the same water twice. So, it's about like consistent change. And yeah, it was just a really cool picture for me as
You know what? I really love that. I think it's such an amazing thing to pay tribute to your sisters through your stage name. I mean, that's so beautiful. So that's one of the most special stories I've actually heard connected to a stage name, I think, ever.
Ah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, well, they've been through all of it. They had to listen to all the bad parts as well before it got better. So, yeah.
Oh, that's really funny, actually. I suppose it's a nice way to pay them back for all that time where their ears maybe were being a little tortured. And I'm sure now they're at the point where they're just super proud of you, right?
Oh, yeah. No, they are, and it's awesome to still have them, or to have had them being a part of everything from the start.
That's really special. And I noticed when I was reading through your EPK that you released a EP called Marionet. When did you release this EP?
Yes. So, the EP actually got released last year in August. And it's been a long time coming. Usually with a lot of the songs, some of them are pretty old, and like some of them I've been performing for years. But after I wrote Marionet, it kind of came about where I was having conversations with quite a few people in a short span of time where like the topic of not being happy with where you are or not being happy in your work kind of kept coming up. And the one day I was driving around and I kind of just saw this picture of this marionette hanging by strings. And the question that came along with it for me was, are you just where you are in life, or do you get to choose like what you bind yourself to? And then if you did realize that you get to choose, what would you choose to bind yourself to? What strings would you keep and which ones would you cut? And that kind of became like a bit of an umbrella theme for the EP. And then Geskryf was also released previously as a single, and Prentjies Agterstraat was a duet that a friend of mine wrote, and we've also been performing it for years. But then I kind of wanted the last song to also kind of fit into the theme a little bit. So that one's Sterrekijker, which kind of started with a poem from like, I think the 1800s.
Wow.
Astronomer and his pupil, something like that, where there's a part that goes, though my soul resides in darkness, it will rise in perfect light, for I've loved the stars too fondly to be fearful of the night. And
Wow. I love
that
that
question
line.
was kind of, it's so cool, right? And
It's
then I wrote the
amazing.
song kind of with the idea of the theme being like is what you want to achieve, like are those dreams that you want to pursue worth the risk and worth the fear and the uncertainty, like, so kind of what do you bind yourself to, and then okay, cool, those things that you choose, are you going to risk it?
I love that. I mean, it's really hard as a songwriter to choose what goes onto an EP or an album. It's, like especially if you've got a body of work that you've been performing for a long time and there's some that you feel
Yeah.
you really desperately want to record and there's others that you feel like their time should come. um how do you
Yeah.
actually narrow it down and choose? Because I know for me I find it really tough, and I try and like pick ones that are going to have a similar vibe or tell a cohesive story, but
Yeah.
it's difficult to to really pick and choose. How do you make those decisions when you're looking at putting together a body of work?
I think it was actually harder with the first album because that was like choosing from like 10 years worth of songs.
Mhm.
And I kind of had the one song that I knew was going to be the theme and the one that I knew was going to be the lead single. But then the rest were all like, okay, how are we going to, like, what is the theme? How are we going to make this work? Because it's such a broad spectrum of songs from such like, a few different phases in my life as well. So I kind of feel like with Marionette was actually easier because it was only like 2 years worth of songs. And then now I'm kind of busy with another EP again where I'm kind of going back and doing some of the older songs again. So it's fun, but it is hard because I think man, I think we're so constricted by budget sometimes as well, especially
Yeah,
independent artists.
absolutely.
So like you kind of have to like put the songs in front of the firing squad and say, okay, who's gonna make it this round?
I really like that analogy, and I sometimes wish I could quite literally do that, like line them up and be like, okay, have like a panel of people that I can just say, you guys choose. You guys tell me which ones to chuck by the
Yeah,
wayside for now and which ones to keep. Um, I also know
exactly.
at the same time, though, that as an artist, sometimes you have like a gut feeling about a certain song that you just
Oh
know
yeah,
whether anyone else believes in it or not. Given enough time and the right pieces, you can make it great, right? Like, I know that the minute I get
definitely.
into a studio with other musicians and I can start to actually pull in the other ideas and pieces that I can't create all on my own and flesh a song out,
Yeah.
it morphs itself into something new, you know? Have you
Yeah,
found the
I want to
same
say
sort of
that is
thing?
something that that is something I had to learn as well with the first album is actually letting go and letting other people have input in a song. Because I mean, it feels like your babies. You're like, you've written this, you've been performing this for years. Like, don't come and tell me this line doesn't make sense now. Like, or this, like, but I had to learn to actually do that. And there was a point with one song where I was, the producer is also one of my good friends. And I was like, you just change it. Tell me what it's gonna be. I can't change this line now. I don't know what to do with it. I know it
Mhm.
doesn't make sense. I can see that, but I can't change it. So it's an interesting process letting go of it a bit as well. But also I've realized with the projects that came after, like the more you do that, like there's such oh man, there's such cool things that happen that you never would have thought of by yourself. And that would have like yeah, like you can't do the song justice on your own. Like it's so cool to actually be open to collaborate and be open for other people's input, especially with the songwriting part, because I think that's the part where we hold on to ideas the hardest. But to actually be open to co-write and hear other people's ideas and see where it can go, because like 99% of the time it is better in the end than it would have been if you just did it by yourself.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I felt like when I went into studio for the first time, I mean, it's your first time in that environment, okay? And as much as you may have been performing for decades or before that, when you put yourself in a studio environment and you're now recording the work, it is a very different entity to live performance or to songwriting. It's now a space where the song gets kind of tied down to its specific pieces, but it also gets pulled apart, you know? And you also end up looking at
Yeah.
it and saying, like, oh, actually, you know, that works great for a live performance, but for a recorded version, maybe that's too long a guitar solo that I've thrown in the middle there, you know? Um, and I think that for me, I went into studio for the first time very naive and kind of very like unsure of how to create the idea I had. And so I was very careful about who I
Yeah.
chose to work with. And fortunately for me, I chose to work with a producer and with an engineer who really understood me and my music and my sound. And so
Yeah.
they were able to add to it in a really positive way. And I think if I'd handed it over to just anyone and said, okay, let's record these things, because I was so new and green to the experience and so incapable of having an opinion on it or knowing how to verbalize my opinion on it,
Yeah.
those songs would have just been totally changed into something foreign from me. Um, and there was one song we were recording, and the producer said to me, "No, no, like I don't like that bit of guitar there. Like you got to drop that." And I went, "No, like we're not dropping that." It was the one and only time in that entire recording of my first album that I stood up and said, "Actually, no, I really like that piece and it should stay. It gives diversity
Yeah.
to the song." And we argued about it for a little bit, and eventually he was like, "You know what? Actually, it is your song. Let's keep it." And after the fact, when we'd finished recording the song, he said to me, "You know what? I actually really like that piece. Now that I'm listening to it in the whole, it's great."
Yeah.
Um, but I know that then going in and recording a second album, suddenly now I was able to have um, more kind of directive license, and I had the knowledge now and the courage to say, actually, no, I don't like that. Can we bring the harmonies up a bit in the edit? You know, can we actually
Yeah.
like I like the beatboxing. Keep the
Yeah.
beatboxing. You say you don't like the beatboxing, I don't care. Keep the beatboxing, you know? Whereas before I hadn't had the courage to do that. Have you found that your courage around creating your own music has improved over the recording process?
I think I've been really privileged to also work with people that I know and trust even before I went into studio with them. And really makes a difference working with someone that knows you and knows like what your heart is behind the music and everything. But I think so. I took a gap year after school where I kind of lived at a studio for 6 months and I was kind of like debating, am I going to study music? Am I just going to start doing it? And then based on just the way, like having the knowledge to back your decisions, I was like, I think I'm just going to go study jazz first. And like, I just want to be able to back myself. But the first album was also really cool though, because it was my first album, but it was also the producer's first big project. So it was a learning process for both of us. So we had a lot of fun. I think there were parts where I did feel, okay, I want to do this, I want to do this, but I also had to let go a bit of that creative thing and have his input as well. But I think what was interesting for me with the second project is, okay, now you did this album. Now you're like, okay, everything I do after this, it needs to be better. So I think with the second time around, I think I overthought it a bit more. Because I was like the songwriting, the production, everything like the songs need to be better. I think especially with the songs, I was tough on myself with that. And now that's kind of again, because I'm gonna keep comparing it to, okay, cool. So now the last one was, yeah, we did better. He learned a lot, I learned a lot, the production's better, the songs are better, everything's great. Now I'm gonna compare this again to that. So it's a weird process, but I think a good friend of mine who's also a musician, singer, songwriter, told me once that like it's very easy to listen to past projects and think where you are now, like, I could have done this better, I could have sung
Mm.
this better, I could have written this line better, I should have used that word instead of this one. But having grace with yourself and just realizing you did the best that you could with what you had in that moment, and that should be enough. And you're going to keep growing and it's going to keep getting better, but you can't compare. You need to realize that what you did there was the best that you could have done. So now kind of just going in with the mindset of I'm just going to do the best that I can with what I have now, and that's going to be enough. But yeah, it is an interesting. I think it's going to be different with every project though.
Yeah, I think, in a lot of ways also, like I hear you, and I also feel the same way. We're always our harshest critics, as artists, we're always going to look at our work and find the things that should have been more. Um,
Yeah.
but I think it's also such a wonderful thing to have a body of work that starts from when you were new, that starts at the early stages of your journey, where your fan base, as they grow, can go back and listen to how you grew, you know, and
Yeah.
actually be part of that journey through the music that you've created before, with all of its imperfections, and actually be able to see that growth in you as an artist and as a musician and follow that journey through your music. I think it's
Yeah.
such an amazing gift actually to leave behind this like trail of evidence. You know,
That is
and
really cool.
in fact, I really like that line. I'm gonna use that as a lyric somewhere, I'm sure.
No, it is
So
because I mean, it's basically because songwriting is such a vulnerable thing. You're basically just putting out your diary for the world to judge, and like, how cool is it to be able to do that?
yeah, and I mean, like how much courage it takes to do that, but it's also like a compulsion. I mean, I know for myself, I can't, I find it very difficult to ever imagine myself not writing. Even if I were to give up
Yeah,
on music as an industry, the thought of actually not songwriting, I don't know how to do that. I've been doing it as part of my cathartic process for so long that to
yeah,
suddenly just stop that doesn't seem like part of my DNA, you know? And so
yeah.
it's almost like I have a similar issue with painting where I said to myself when I started creating visual art, I'm either going to end up with a house that's literally so full of canvases that I can't move in it, or I have to sell them or give them away, you know? And it's kind of the same thing with the music, you know? I mean, like, I'm going to keep songwriting. So I might as well keep performing it and I might as well keep recording it and putting it out there, regardless of
Yeah.
whether people like it or not, because I can't stop anyway, you know?
I
So
think
what
it's
is
also
your
it's a oh no, sorry, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, like, what is your songwriting process and how do you sort of find inspiration? Is it really just your internal journey or is it also, you know, stimulated by other people's stories? Like, where does your pool of inspiration come from?
I think that's one of the things I really love about songwriting is that it never really happens the same way twice. Like, I mean, yeah, I don't think I don't think it's possible to write something and have it not be personal in some way. Even when you're
Mm,
writing for other people, there's always like a little bit of yourself that you leave behind in something. And I think it's cool. Like, I sometimes do this thing over Valentine's Day where I ask couples to send me their stories. So a lot of people usually do it as a gift to one another,
that's nice.
where they send in their stories and I kind of write it into a song. And that thing is like the easiest to detach yourself from because you have all the info from them and you're writing from the start with that perspective. But other than that, it's always personal. But also, like with Marionet, like a situation that happened that makes you think of something. Like a lot of the times, I think I kind of use it as a way to process something as well, where you
Mm.
kind of just like working through these questions and thoughts. And another cool thing that I've realized is a lot of the time, when you write a song from this place, this perspective, this question, whatever, and then sometimes when you look back on it a few years later or even a few months later, you kind of realize that the song's meaning has changed completely to you as well. And also, I mean, 1,000 people can listen to the same song and they can all hear it in a different way or get something else out of it. So yeah, I think that's something really cool to me about songwriting. It's always different and everyone's going to perceive it differently. And yeah, it's just such a it's actually like this big mystery, but it's really cool.
And that's one of the most beautiful things about art is the part of the creative process is actually the viewer, right? The listener,
Yeah.
the person on the other side and their story and how they then take your song and your lyrics and the sounds that you've created and how that then somehow infuses itself into their story, right? I mean, I know for
Yes.
myself, like I've sat at times in the deepest loneliness and been listening to someone else's song and felt like it was written for me in that moment, you
Yeah.
know? And obviously, these people don't even know me. They certainly weren't writing for me, but it's an amazing gift that we as songwriters have to give to anyone who connects with our music. Is that in that moment, it felt like that song was written for them,
Yeah.
right? And that's such a
No, that is
beautiful thing.
cool.
And tell me a little bit now about your live performances. Like, what is it like to experience Jade River on stage?
Well, I think like a lot of the girls doing Galpalooza as well, I do a lot of cover gigs. Like we all do the restaurants market thing. But my ideal shows are the theater shows. And I mean, I only get to do a few a year if I'm lucky, but theater shows with a band, I think because of the songwriting aspect where I feel like a theater setting is people actually want to be there to listen. They actually want to hear the stories as well. Um, but me and a few friends started up this show a few years ago called Die Singkamer, where we basically take everyone's a bunch of everyone's originals and a few covers as well, but we rarely do it as the original is or as it was recorded. Like we do a lot of mashups and medleys, and with the original songs we sometimes like swap genres, or like we have a lot of fun with it. And like the whole concept of the show and everything about it started with, it's just a jam session in someone's living room. Like where did like get back to the fun of it, like where did this start, where did the making music thing start? And it was with people. So I love theater shows. I love performing with my band because, I mean, none of us wants to do this alone.
Mm.
So I think um, with my solo shows, where I get to do originals, I think people shouldn't expect to be up and dancing the whole evening. Most of my songs are a bit more storytelling based and a bit more, I want to say, deeper. It's not always like just dancey, fun songs to listen to. So yeah, something with a bit of something to chew on, I guess.
You know what? I really like that, and I love the concept of your other shows where you kind of have like a jam session and reminding yourself why you got into this in the first place. Because I know for me, like I'm really stubborn, and the first time I kind of put myself out there and started playing, I had really good support for my original work, and then very quickly got into like the festival circuit and was told by one of the festival organizers, but you have to play covers. And the rebel in me went, "You said what now? Sorry, I have to? No." And then I just stubbornly was like, "No, I won't play covers." And that has been both a detriment and a blessing, obviously. There's certain places and people who won't book me because I won't play covers. And there's other points where it's become part of my identity as an artist and it's something I stand up for. And there are other people who are really passionate about originals and then are like, yeah, that's the way it should
Yeah.
be. So, I love the idea of getting back to the reason why you do something because I know in this industry it can be really disheartening sometimes, especially if you're being asked to just play covers and you are actually a songwriter with really incredible content. It can be disheartening to feel like,
Yeah.
you know, why am I doing this? Because if I started this thinking that I'd be able to put out into the world what my heart and soul is gifting, and then being told, no, you're not allowed to share that, that can really
Yeah.
drain an artist, right? So I love the idea
Yeah.
of getting back to that. I mean, how do you
Yeah,
deal with
no,
that?
totally.
How do you deal with that kind of artistic drain from people?
I Well, I think there are certain the times of the year where it is a lot busier than others, where you have like a lot of cover gigs, sometimes doing like three or four per week, and we do like markets and restaurants. And like, I think I kind of had to separate that a bit in my mind as well, because a lot of those shows are your background music. People don't actually listen to you.
Yeah.
And to kind of just separate yourself from like, also had a conversation with a few people about this where I mean we're so used to getting our energy from the crowd. That's like the most natural way of like getting your energy and having that vibe on stage and everything. But to kind of get to a point where you don't need to rely on that, and also where you can like, I mean, that feels like work to me. Like cover gigs generally, that's work. Theater shows that I get to do with friends and the band and everything, that's fun. That is like the most fun ever. Um, so I feel like they kind of live in different categories in my mind as well. So
I like that. I had debated for a while just putting on like really big dark sunglasses and a red wig and being like, this is the cover girl, and just never
Yeah.
revealing my identity and playing the cover gigs just to get the paycheck. Um, and then I kind of went and had a jam session, funnily enough, and realized, like, hang on a second, I make music because I love to make music. You know what? I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. It's cool. Like, I don't mind. I came back feeling like okay about it again. So, I think it is a really healthy thing to be able to divide it in your mind, to have that this is what I do for work and this is what I do for passion. Um, so Gulpalooza this year, have you performed at Gulpaloozas before? Is this your first Gulpalooza or are you coming back to the Gulpalooza stage?
No, this is actually my first one. I didn't actually know about it until they approached me this year for it. But it's such a cool concept, and like there's amazing artists on the lineup everywhere. And then like the amount of venues they've gotten on board and everything, it's actually really amazing.
Yeah, they really have upped it. I mean, it's been a growing concept for the last couple of years, and I feel like this year with the concept of having pop-up parties all over the place, they're like taking over, which is amazing. It's
Yeah,
really
it's so
nice that
cool.
their kind of name is going to be popping up
Yeah.
everywhere. Um, and there are some amazing artists on the lineup, and I think that from what I've heard from other artists that I've spoken to who have performed at previous Galpaloozas, people really listen. People are really
Yeah.
there to support the artists. They're really there to listen to those artists. They're really there because they love the music and they care.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to find it to be a really wholesome experience, a really uplifting
Yeah.
experience, which is, I know, what Jolene's trying to create for woman in music is something that
Mm.
uplifts you and makes you feel like you're relevant and your content matters. I think it's going to be such a good experience for you. And I'm very glad that you have come in and joined the Girlpalooza crew.
Same. I'm very excited. Like, yeah, I think it would be so cool to meet some of the others as well. Like, I know some of the girls on the lineup, but yeah, it's gonna be so cool to all get together and make music and just have a lot of fun on stage.
I think it's going to be really special. And like you mentioned, there's a bunch of pop up parties happening all over the place. So, do you want to tell my audience where you're going to be playing? It's all obviously happening
Yeah.
on Women's Day, but tell me where and time, please, if you have that information to
Um,
share.
I am going to be at the Bus Stop 7 Market. I'm not 100% sure about the time yet, but yeah, obviously on Women's Day on the 9th of August. I'm going to be at the Bus Stop 7 Market. I think the market actually opens at like 8 or 9 already. And it's a really fun market. I play there quite often. They have amazing food, amazing like local crafts, and yeah. So yeah, if people want to come hang out for the day, it's a really fun place to do it.
I mean, it's always nice to be able to hang out in an outdoor environment and, go and do a bit of shopping and listen to some fantastic music. And I think that I'm always really happy to hear that venues or events that run on the regular are keen to jump on board and support women on, obviously it's Women's Day, guys. I mean, like, it's the day
Yeah,
you should be going, let's have women in the forefront. So it's always nice when
yeah.
venues actually are doing that. That is fantastic. Now, also tell me, where can people find your music? Where can they follow you and stay up to date on what you're doing next? Because you've said you're working on project number 3. So people need to go catch up on 1 and 2 and then be prepped and ready for number 3.
Yeah, I'm excited. So, like, I'm obviously on all the streaming platforms under Jade River, but like Jade is spelled JAID. And then also my website, www.jaderiver.com. And then on all the socials as well. I am not active at all on TikTok. I do have a profile, not really there, but I think Instagram and Facebook are like the best places to kind of keep track of upcoming shows and new music and all of that.
Fantastic. Why does TikTok feel like such a drain? I don't understand it, but
Oh,
it feels that way to me too. For some reason, it feels so much more trying
it's
than
like
Facebook and
I don't know,
Instagram. Why is that?
maybe it's a generational thing. I mean, I just don't get it. I feel like there's 12-year-old girls making loads of money on TikTok. I just don't get it. Like I don't understand how it works. I don't know how, like, what am I supposed to post? I'm generally, I think I'm actually just generally bad with like actually being on top of my social media. um like it feels like another full-time job, and like I think a lot of artists actually feel like that.
Yeah, everyone.
Yo, it's not fun.
No, it's definitely I've tried really hard to change my mindset about it and be like, this could be fun. And I've tried over the years to make it fun for myself wherever I can. But
Yeah.
I think the thing is that as creatives, we don't actually have the energy or the time to be creating something and then at the same time like filming it. We're not permanently going, oh wait, it's an inspired moment when I just want to flow. Let me stop, set up a camera and film it. That's
Yeah.
disconnected concepts. So I think that is why it feels so much like work.
Especially when you just do your own content. I mean, with the Syncomer stuff, it's fun because there's like three of us and we do like fun skits and like do songs together, and like it's a whole vibe. But like, oh, just making content for yourself, like sitting here making a video or whatever. I don't know. It does not come naturally.
I mean, that's probably a good thing because it shows that you're an authentic individual and that that you have other things going on in your life that hold value. So I take that as actually a positive for your for your personality and your character. Um, especially when you're trying to cram it all into 30 seconds. I don't know, like I find myself just deleting tons of videos of my face where I'm just like, no, enough now. um okay, so people can find you on all social media including TikTok, but don't expect much from TikTok. Go and find her in other places. You go and find her in other places, follow her, and listen out for what's coming next. Go and catch up on what she's already done. And yeah, thank you so much for this chat, Jade. It's been amazing. And I really look forward to catching up with you in the future.
Oh, thank you so much. It was really nice chatting to you.